We have been accused of all kinds of terrible crimes, and the place to answer that is in front of the Filipino people, not in front of the American media, but in the Philippines.
As a young Marcos, I once admired his eloquence, wit, and seemingly sincere views on matters concerning the Philippines. In a particular interview from 1989, when he and his family were still in exile in Hawaii, one statement struck me the most. When asked about the accusations against his family, he firmly expressed that his father should have been tried in a Philippine court, in front of the Filipino people. The irony, however, is that years later, he himself, now in a position of power, would advocate for a fellow Filipino, accused of terrible crimes, to be tried in an international court. This contradiction highlights how principles can shift when they suit personal or political needs, raising questions about justice, accountability, and the true motivations of those who lead.
We have been accused of all kinds of terrible crimes, and we have been accused of all kinds of terrible misbehavior. And the place to answer that is in front of the Filipino people, not in front of the American media, not in front of the American public, not in front of the American political system, but in the Philippines.
Moreover, his measure of a successful political policy has always been based on undeniable parameters such as hunger, peace and order, and insurgencies. Back then, he used these as a standard to criticize the Aquino administration in its first 3 years. Strikingly, these same issues now mirror the challenges of his own administration. The very questions he once asked should now be asked of his own political programs.
The plight of the average Filipino has worsened. Pag-usapan na lang natin ang bulunggong kung gusto mo. I just hope that they will realize what is truly going on back home. What you and I know, what the country knows, what the average Filipino knows. Life is harder. People are going hungry. The communist insurgency grows worse by the day, no matter what they say. Peace and order in the cities, in the countryside, is getting worse. And no matter how you put it, no matter what ideological buzzwords you care to bring up, that in the end is the measure of the success or failure of your program. And having said that, I will not sit here and tell you how life is in the Philippines. I will ask you, how has it been in the last 3 years? Has it succeeded? Has it failed?
At the end of his interview, the young Marcos delivered a profound message to the Filipino people, one that resonated deeply. Surprisingly, his message remains highly relevant in today's Philippine political arena. His words have the power to uplift the Filipino spirit, strengthen political will, and encourage the people to exercise their political rights. Ironically, however, this may not necessarily translate to support for his own government. What he once saw as a turning point for the Filipino people, one that he profoundly wished for then, may now be applied in ways he never anticipated, perhaps even against his own leadership. Ultimately, it is now up to the Filipino people to interpret, adapt, and put this message into practice.
The Filipinos must come to a political maturity at this point in their history. Filipinos must understand that they must exercise their political will for what they believe to be right and what they believe to be just. We know the conditions that they find themselves in now. We know what life is like in the Philippines now. They know much better than we do. They must now exercise their political will, their political energy to make changes, to make their lives easier, better, and correct. And it's a turning point in the history of our country. It's a turning point in the maturity of political maturity of the general populace. And I think, knowing Filipinos as I do, that we will do the right thing.